Well, hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Conversations with Christal. Thank you so much for taking your time to tune in today. And I have a special treat for you. I have a little sneak peek for you today. So, this is really just the intro. I wanted to pop on and just kind of prep you about what you're going to be listening to. So, I offer relationship workshops. They're completely free because I love doing them. I love helping people. I love getting questions and having people who, raise their hand to be coached. And this is just my way of providing value and giving back and helping you get some quick wins in your relationship. And so after this intro is over, you're going to be hearing the audio version of me running the relationship coaching workshop. And on this particular workshop, I think you'll really maybe connect with the volunteer who had a question that she wanted to be coached on. If you prefer to see this workshop, remember my YouTube channel is the visual version of this podcast. So just go ahead and pop over there and you can watch the workshop. So just to give you a heads up, this workshop, I give you 3 simple steps that you can do today, this week, this weekend in your relationship to start getting actual results. Less friction, less frustration, more love, more connection in your relationship, really with yourself, as well as the relationship with your spouse. So you're definitely in for a treat. And remember, if you ever have any questions about the programs that I'm offering, I offer free discovery calls. So this is a way for you to get on a call face to face with me and just say, hey, look, this is what I'm dealing with. And is this something that you think that you could help me with? And I am always very honest and very upfront because I'm honored when people take the time to really want to work on their relationships. And so I will be honest with you on whether it's something that I know I can knock out of the park with you or something that I can maybe even refer out. So allow me to be that connector for you. I am more than happy to do so. I just want you to be in a place where you are getting coached or you're getting the support that you need. All right, everyone, that is it. Go ahead and enjoy the relationship coaching workshop. Until next time, have a great day. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the relationship workshop. I'm so excited that you took the opportunity to sign up for learning basically how to reduce the friction and reduce some of the frustration you may be experiencing in your relationship. So, I have 3 things here on the board that I'm going to run through. And my promise is that after I go through these 3 items, if you take action on them, you will almost immediately see a difference. Yes, that is the promise that I'm making. So, my name is Christal, and I am a certified life and relationship coach. And it really is so important to me to help women stop the emotional suffering. And I have a degree in psychology, and I thought that this combination of like life and relationship coaching would really be the perfect match to help me move forward in helping other women in their relationships and their self-confidence and overall like quality of life. So I am so happy that you raised your hand and you basically said, I want to learn more about this. I'm also a really big believer in healing relationships. And so you're probably here because there may be some frustration that you're experiencing, or maybe you're not feeling heard or seen or as valued. And I want you to know that healing is possible and it only takes one person. And I know in our society, we typically hear that it takes 2. I mean, there's also, even a song about it. It takes 2, baby. But I want to challenge you that I have more of an unconventional approach that works. And because I know that it only takes one, I've done this work myself. So that's why I'm so honored to be here with you. And it's such a joy to just get this information out. So, relationship workshop. Here we go. So, the first thing I want you to do is drop your manual. And you may be thinking to yourself, what is a manual, Christal? I want you to think about when you get a new appliance or when the kids get a new toy, and it comes with an instruction manual of how to put it together, how to operate it properly, that type of thing. I want to challenge you that you have something like that for your spouse. You have a manual in your head of like how they are supposed to act, how they're supposed to talk, behave, interact with and around you. And I want to also, offer you that I'm not in your relationship, but I can almost guarantee that some of those manuals that you have for your partner cause more stress than you anticipate. They leave you feeling frustrated or upset or maybe even downright angry. And I just want to offer you that there is a different way to handle that. So when we look at having a manual for someone who we're in a relationship with, and they are an adult, that's the key here. We're dealing with adults. So it's not like it's our kids who we have some stewardship over and we can say, hey, you need to do this. If not, these are the consequences, that type of thing. So when we're dealing with adults, there is a 50-50 chance that we're going to get what we want, or they're going to follow through on our request. They may do it, which is great, right? We always feel good when that happens. But then when they don't, because maybe they don't want to, or that's not in alignment with who they are, or they don't want to do that with you, or whatever it is, then we feel some kind of way. And sometimes we end up having a little tantrum. Sometimes we do the silent treatment, whatever your go-to is for that. I want to suggest that when it comes to your husband or your partner, you look at him for who he really is and challenge yourself to start peeling back some of those manuals. Another way to think of a manual is an expectation. What if you started peeling back some of those expectations that you have for him and just look at him for who he is, in your eyes, faults and all? And can you just love him for who he is without your guidance, without your suggestions, without your influence? Because remember, then that is the true person of who he really is, right? And so when I am talking about manuals, it's also important to know that sometimes you have unspoken manuals. And you may not even realize that they're unspoken. You may just feel like frustrated or really upset or just feeling kind of off about something in regards to your spouse. And I want to challenge you that that's a red flag, that you may have an unspoken expectation of how he should be acting, responding, whatever. And this is the thing, the unspoken manuals, they always set them up for failure, okay? Because it's just in our head. It's different when we, communicate them. And then remember, even when we do communicate, what do we have? We still have a 50-50 chance that they're going to do it. But if it's just in our head, and let me tell you what this can look like. Some unspoken manuals can be, he knows me well enough. We've been together for how many years? If he loved me, he would know that about me. If you ever find yourself saying that to yourself or to your friend or a girlfriend, just think about all the stress that thought is bringing you. It's not bringing you the results that you need. And I can really challenge you on that because I totally believe it. I totally experienced it myself. So think about having expectations and then the ones that you don't even communicate. So you know that he's already going to fail in that area because he has no idea, right? And so something that is important to look at here is when you are setting expectations or requesting things from your partner, you can always do that, right? So hear me clearly that this isn't about you having a hushed mouth. You can request all day long. But what I want you to do is be in a place where you maintain your emotional well-being, whether or not they follow through on that request or not. That is the key. That's where I want you all to be. And that's where I know that you all are so capable of being. But so many times we just aren't taught this information, right? So we don't really know any different. So when you have expectations of your husband or your partner, remember 50-50 chance that they may or may not follow through on those expectations. Then think about the expectations that we have that are just in our head. They have the husband or the partner, they have no idea. And we may be thinking to ourselves like, if they knew me well enough, like they should, I shouldn't have to tell him that. Or we've been married for how many years? I should not have to tell him that. Or if he loved me, he would know that about me. And it all sounds so logical, right? But I just really want to challenge you on that, that those types of thoughts end up getting us in trouble. Because when we're dealing with adult in trouble, I mean, basically, it puts us in a position where we're like giving up our emotional well-being. Because when we're dealing with other adults, they can do or not do, right? We can't force them. We don't have any control over them like we do our children, for example. So remember, look at the expectations that you have for your husband or your partner. And I like to refer to it as like having a manual, a literal instruction manual of how they should behave, around us and in regards to us. And then definitely take a look at the ones that are unspoken, because those are the tricky ones. And remember, I want to mention this again, the ones that are unspoken, you may not even realize it. You may just feel frustrated, or you may just feel upset, or maybe angry about something that he does, like on a recurring basis. And when that happens, I want to challenge you just to stop and take a moment to think about, like, why am I feeling like this? And if you ask yourself that question, I can almost like promise you, you're going to find maybe a hidden expectation that you had that's causing you stress. Like I think about and I always use this example because it's easy, but it's so true. And it was causing me a ridiculous amount of stress. So my husband taking out the trash, right? So, and I've done some work on this. And what I found is that I had this belief that really was created in childhood, that I don't care if you're married or not, whatever, that the man takes out the trash. Okay. That was a fact in my head. And so not only do they take out the trash, but after the garbage truck comes to pick up the trash, within a timely manner, like within a couple of hours, they then go out and get the cans, bring them back in the garage before we get an HOA violation. Okay, that's how it's supposed to work in my head. And when my husband and I got married and started living together, I started saying to myself, like, okay, this is not as a big a deal for him as it is for me. I mean, on trash day, I'm like, I'm, looking out the front door, looking out the front window. If I hear the garage door opening, I'm like checking to see if he's pulling out the cans. I mean, and I had to think about it. I was just like, this is so silly of, how I'm acting around him taking out the trash and getting stressed about it. And he's fine. So we get to the point where he does finally take out the trash, right? We get there. But then the cans tend to sit out way past when they should be brought in my head. Okay. And this is something else that he's completely fine with. It doesn't bother him a bit. And I'm looking out the front window and I'm like, oh, that neighbor's cans are back in their garage. Oh, there goes another one. Oh, look, we're the only one on the street who has our cans still out. And it's the next day. I had all this stuff going on in my head, right? So I did some work on it. And I realized, I'm like, I could be spending my time and my mental energy doing so many other things, right? Besides this. So I can have a conversation with him. That's always an option. But I had to realize that I still had that 50-50, right? Even if I have a conversation with him about it, 50% chance he's not going to be on board with it. Because if that were important to him, what do we already know? I wouldn't have to have a conversation with him. He'd be doing it, in the best way possible if it were important to him. And so I said to myself, okay, I'm like, is this a belief that I want to continue holding on to? Is this belief serving me in like the results that I want in my relationship? And I had to just be honest with myself and say no, right? I had this really deep-seated belief that it is a man's job. And like I said, whether you have a marriage certificate or not, if there is a man on the property, it is their job to take out the trash. I had to tell myself eventually that belief isn't serving me. And then I had to like take a moment and just kind of like laugh at myself a little bit and get creative and be like, what are some different things, different ways I can look at this? Like I could, if he gets them out on time, right, which we're at that point now, but after then they've been emptied and they're sitting out there for days, I can pull them back in. I have these two hands. They happen to be attached to this arm and this arm that happens to work. I can go pull them back in. I can let them sit out there too. Why not? Right? I could hire someone to come on our garbage day and pull our cans, to the side of the house. I just had to get like creative and just kind of silly with it. And like with all the other options that I could do, right? To take care of something that was important to me, not my husband. And so I just kind of wanted to share that example so that way you can see like the before and after, the stress that it was causing me, and then how I had to realize like, I'm giving up my power here. I'm literally giving up a little piece of my emotional well-being every time I'm fretting over this situation. And so that leaves me, the example leads me to this beautiful gift. And this box is so beautiful. It was actually given to me by my best girlfriend, and I love it and I keep it. And it's a nice, like, hefty box, and it's sturdy. It's gold, as you can see. It's textured, which you cannot see, but I can feel. Got some pretty bows on top. And when you leave this workshop, I want you to think about this gift, right? Representing your emotional well-being. And every time you have an expectation of your husband or your partner, and they do not follow through on it, and you get up in arms, or you're frustrated, or your whole day is ruined, or you make it mean something about you personally, you're literally just handing over this gift to him, right? You are handing over a piece of your emotional well-being to your husband or to your partner, right? And I want to challenge you to keep it, because we are the best person to take care of our own emotional well-being every single time. No matter how much your husband loves you, you are the best person to care for this beautiful gift. So remember, I go back to what I talked about with step number 1 and 2. You can always make a request of your husband or your partner. Let me be very clear. You can always make a request. But if you are hanging your emotional well-being on whether they follow through with that request or an expectation that you have, you're signing yourself up for emotional suffering. You really are. And I know that even after you get off this workshop, you're going to be more aware of this, which is already more than what you were before you came on the workshop. And it may not happen overnight, but I promise you, if you really take to heart what we've learned here today, you are going to see a difference in yourself, because this is work that we can do for and within ourselves. And the husband, he just benefits, but the work is really for us. The work is really for us. So keep your gift as much as possible. Gain that awareness of where you're having an interaction with your husband, or he did something. And it can even, and I hear this a lot from clients. Okay, I'm following along here, but what about when we have a conversation and the husband, he's the one who makes the promise that he's going to do it, or he's the one that brought it up, but then he doesn't follow through on it. I hear you. And I know that that happens. But again, he is an adult. We cannot control other adults. And so that's his stuff. If he wants to make promises that he doesn't follow through on, don't make that mean anything about you. That's for him to settle, within himself, right? And you can question him about it. You can do, all of that stuff. Not saying you can't, you can do all of that, but don't give away your peace. Don't give away your emotional well-being because your partner is not taking action, or is taking action in a way that you don't approve of, or that he He said that he wouldn't do it that way, that type of thing. You decide how you want to feel and you stay like strong in that feeling. Okay. All right, ladies, I want to make sure that, and I'm going to check the Q&A box here for questions in a minute here, but I just want to make sure that we are so clear on this, because I really do promise you, if you get off of this workshop and you really take to heart with what we just talked about, you are going to see a change in your relationship. Even this weekend, I literally feel so comfortable saying that I can promise you. If you gain the awareness, look at the expectations, and look, remember how I was talking about having a manual for your husband, having expectations for him. When you look at, and a good exercise would even be to write them down, like write down your top 5. And you were sent a worksheet where you could actually do this. Look at the expectations that you have for your partner. You can decide, is this expectation giving me the result that I want to have? And there is no right or wrong. You can have a belief that's not getting you the results that you want in your relationship. And guess what? You can still hang on to it. Why? Because you're an adult and you can do that. Of course, me as your coach, I'm like, please don't do that. But we have to have that, make that commitment in that decision and be ready within ourselves. Okay. All right. Let me check the chat box. Oh, I have someone raising their hand. Let's see here. Hi. Hi, Jada. I am allowing you to talk.
Thank you so much. This is a wonderful reminder of what I should already know as an adult. Right. However, I typed it in the chat, but in case you didn't see it, it's okay. I struggle with the expectations that I have for my husband, and then me having grown up to be very independent, right? My parents did their job. I was able to handle myself away from college and live this very independent life, and then do all of the things that an adult should be doing. And I get married, and because of my Christian beliefs, I always believe that the man is the head of the household. But like you said, like, dude, take the trash out. I am your queen. I should not have to take the trash out because you're here. Like, I shouldn't have to pump gas. You're in the car with me, right?
Right.
Why would you want to do these things with me? So, but to your point, I could totally do these things myself. I did them before I was married. And I find an internal struggle with myself. And I was just wondering, is like, where should I be not worrying about this? I guess I would really like to not have this as an internal struggle. And if there's one thing outside of what you have already shared with us today, is there any other tips that I could help to just kind of quell my own struggle?
Yes. No, I thank you so much for bringing this up, Jada, and thanks for being with us today. This is so important because this allows us to do like some inner work to really look at some of the beliefs that we have about the men in our life and about our marriage. And so what I would suggest that you do is some of like the top expectations that you have about your husband that really get you, right? Because these are the ones that he either consistently does not follow through on, or he's kind of like, you never know, he may or may not. And so I suggest writing them down on a piece of paper and looking at them and saying, first off, it's important to understand that beliefs are just thoughts that we have thought over and over and over and over. And so in our head, it's a fact, right? Because we have been thinking that thought for so long, it has turned into a belief. And so when an exercise that's so powerful is really getting it out of our head, because when it's in our head, we can indulge in it, right? We like to hang on to it because it like enforces like this belief that we've been having for so many years. And when you get it out on paper, that alone is powerful to look at this thought, this expectation, this belief for what it really is. many times it's something, a story that we've, hung on to. And when you have it out in front of you, like in black and white, then you go down each belief, right? Or each thought and ask yourself, when I think about the result that I want in my marriage, and many times I'll hear women say one of the common themes is like more connection, right? There's other results as well that we can be looking for. But let's just say, for example, that's one of them. For each belief and each thought, just be still and ask yourself, is this belief getting me closer to more connection? Is this belief getting me more connection with my husband? And what's interesting, because, when I even go back to how, you're agreeing that you kind of have that same belief about men being the head of household and doing some of the more, societal, like manly duties that we've been kind of like taught. But I just had to literally ask myself, like, is this worth me giving up a piece of my peace? Like, no, I wasn't like on the floor rolling around and crying about it when he wasn't taking the trash can in, but I was causing enough drama to, like you kind of mentioned, Jada, like the internal, you just kind of walk around with it a little bit during the day. And so, yeah, I think that's a beautiful question. And if you just take time to do that simple exercise, I really believe that you're going to see a release of some of that internal, draw that you have holding on to that story. And we all do this, and we all have our stories. And then we let those stories very almost sometimes innocently, because we're in relationship with someone who we value, who we love. And so it's important to know too, like, make sure you're not beating yourself over the head with this. This is about you gaining awareness, because the stories that, we've been telling ourselves, most of them rarely get us the result that we're looking for. But we haven't done any differently, like we haven't known any better sometimes. And so we innocently hold on to them because they will say stuff like, they just make sense, or this is just being an adult, or this is common sense, right? I know those are some of the ways that I would like describe, like, and fight for my stories. And so I say fight for your peace and fight for keeping your emotional well-being.
Thank you so much. That was really clear and a good way for me to go and just really reassess those moments, because they come up. They're not always there, but they do come up, and I appreciate having like an exercise I can do for myself, because to your point, he's not worried about any of that stuff. It's only me creating, right? It's me creating the drama within myself. So thank you. I have so many more questions, so I look forward to your next set of workshops.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being here. Okay, let's see. Would anyone else like to raise their hand? I can have you come on and ask a question, or let me actually check the chat box and see if there's anything else I'm missing. Okay, yeah, Jada, I see your question there. Yeah. Okay, so I don't see any questions from anyone else. We got a quiet group here today, but I promise that these workshops are only just 30 minutes, and we're pretty much right on time. I don't see any other questions, but I do want you to know how you can get in contact with me. I'll go ahead and put my website there down at the bottom or in the chat box. If you have any questions, my website is the best place to connect with me. We can schedule a discovery call where we can talk about some of the things that you know are pressing you most in your relationship. I offer a 15-minute complimentary discovery call. And then I also have a relationship coaching program, and it's 6 weeks. And so you can learn more about that at my website as well. But it's basically where this little taste of what you had today, we dive deep and we do so much more. And at the end of that 6 weeks, I basically promise you transformation, because I want you to have the relationship of your dreams. And I know that that's like a bold statement, but it's something that if you commit to doing the work, you are going to see that at the end of the 6 weeks, you are so much closer to that than you could even imagine. And so feel free to connect with me. I don't see any other questions, so I will go ahead and wrap us up. It basically was 30 minutes right on the dot, but just thank you so much for taking time out of your day. And just think of this like as self-care. This is time where you allowed me to pour into you and just kind of encourage you that you have what it takes to get some of the results that you want in your relationship. And it's about awareness. So remember, don't beat yourself up about anything that you learned today, because now you have more awareness about a different way that you can approach some of the friction that we have in our marriages and in our relationships. And I was just honored to be a part of this with you today. All right, everyone, that is it for today's workshop. Have a beautifully blessed day. Bye.